Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming and Virgin Territory, one of the many Curseborne games I am currently running for members of my Patreon. I now have 3 Curseborne groups going. It's a very popular game on my Patreon, and Virgin Territory is one of the campaigns that I have been recapping on this here YouTube channel. Now, last time we did a recap was of session 4, and I've actually ran 2 sessions since then. I've been wanting to basically bulk out these videos a little, with a little more information. And just to explain where we got to last time, our characters had discovered the body of the missing heir, Tommy Earl, the heirs being the heart-eating hungry in Curseborne, heart-eating vampires, effectively. And they had found that his heart had been extracted, and deciding to not cause any kind of civil war, they decided they would incinerate the remains of Tommy Earl and discreetly handle the rest of the investigation. Now, Tommy Earl is not a well-loved individual. Each of our characters has a reason for loathing him, and indeed the SPCs, the NPCs, the various supporting characters who have sought our characters out to locate Tommy Earl don't seem to have much love for him either. But the important thing is he is still family. He is still an heir, and as one of our player characters is also an heir in the form of Princess Cece, from the fictional Southeast Asian nation of Chimeria. Her family lives in exile in the American Midwest. There's the obligation to detect him, to locate him, find out what happened. And yes, they found him in the apartment of one of his boyfriends, heart ripped from his chest, body rapidly decomposing. So they helped scoop up the pieces, stuck him in the incinerator in our Hyde, Dr. OConnell's surgery, to dispose of the corpse. They interrogated a battle-forged, an outsider that had basically locked onto them to find out what was going on, and got a description of an individual who had jammed what looked like a boat hook into Tommy Earl's chest. So they're piecing things together. Now, Cece decided she would meet with Zhongdi, an elder member of her family, an older member of the Chimerian royal family, indeed. Back when Chimeria had a royal family, he was most likely king or emperor. Now he is just an old man feeding the ducks, and Cece meets him at the park to basically reminisce about the old country and gain some advice on how to best handle Esther Iverson. Esther is the heir that assigned this task to Princess Cece. Zhongdi, who either plays the part of a senile old coot, a bit weathered around the gills, or is a senile old coot, gave some advice that amounted to don't tell Esther everything. Just give her enough. The last time an heir was murdered in Junction City, the setting of our game, she, Esther Iverson, tore the city apart with war. And this entire thing could be a casus belli, if you like. It could be a murder, a false flag, if you want, set up to send the various accursed of Junction City into conflict with each other. Princess Cece then went on to see Esther at a family gathering of other Hungry, and there was various Hungry of various families there. Kevin Lachlan of the Bathorites, Octavia Morse of the Iscariots, Frederick Ignatius of the Verare, who recognized Zhongdi because he was the Hungry responsible for rescuing the family of the Royal Chimerians from Chimeria over 100 years past and bringing them to America. And so he's very complimentary about how she's grown. It was an awkward family gathering because when it's accursed of various different families, you're not all necessarily connected by blood or even any kind of affiliation beyond the fact that you all have an unhealthy appetite. The Verare, of course, are soul eaters. The Iscariots are flesh eaters. The Bathorites are blood bathers. So they're not all indulging in the same kind of diets. But as they share a curse, they come together in this time of crisis to discuss how best to handle it. As Princess Cece is here, they'll want to hear the news. What is going on with Tommy Earl? It's a fine dining experience involving hearts, blood, flesh, and souls. And, well, it has to be said, Freddie Ignatius was very complimentary about Cece, but Cece fed back to Esther in private that Tommy is dead, has been destroyed, but she doesn't tell Esther, and she keeps this from her, how he died, or indeed the crew's suspicions. Right now, they are still following up. She then partook in the exotic heart of the descendant of Sven Forkbeard, sharing it with Esther, reforging those family ties, which are at the risk of being strained right now. Now let's move on to another character, because this all happened in Session 5, and in Session 5 we actually capsuled different character journeys, so there was a lot of jumping between characters all doing individual things. It's something I like to do occasionally. My tendency tends to be I do 1 or 2 sessions where the group is together or in 2 halves, and then I will do 1 session where everyone is apart. It gives everyone the opportunity to do some deep personal character development, not reliant on moving around as a unit in a city, because I often find that unnatural. I think it's nice to change between them. And Arturo, our 8 hands gangster, was called in to meet with Simon Akimbi El Aranya. Now, despite the name, Akimbi is a Nigerian-American gangster in Junction City and one of the 8 hands, essentially Art's mentor. He's concerned that the folks in Martin Coyle's gang, Martin Coyle is a black American gangster in Junction City, have dominated Helena Estevez's territory since her arrest, a gangster we have encountered previously through rumour and innuendo. Akimbi has no love for Estevez, but with her in prison, the balance of power between criminal gangs in the city needs to be restored. Art needs to take Eugenio, that's Helena's son, under his wing and mentor the young idiot, and failing that, get a better Latino lieutenant in his place. Teach him how to spread justice in his gang when someone happens to be stealing from him, for example, which is what Simon Akimbi El Aranya implies is going on. So Akimbi follows up because the reason he and Art are meeting is because Art has been dutifully reporting all instances of strange liminalities, entrances to the outside, things that have not been recorded so far by the 8 hands. And so far in the campaign, the crew have encountered 2 or 3 of these, and Art has reported each one to El Aranya. Akimbi El Aranya is very interested in these liminalities and asks him to explore them when his work with his crew on this Tommy Earl shit comes to a conclusion. He has heard through the spiderweb that the crew's looking into Tommy Earl, and gives some advice at Art's probing that Earl was connected with several families the heirs would not approve of. The spawn of Vodnik were one. A man by the name of Pierre Sterry, or should I say an accursed by the name of Pierre Sterry, a very nasty customer, used to be purely wet work, an assassin in the city and beyond the city until he took over, executed his own father, and took on his drug import business. They used the river that passes through Junction City as their trafficking. Most of the city's gangs get their shit, get their junk from and through Pierre, so he is a fairly big criminal player who Akimbi basically warns Art, don't mess with him. This is someone who has his own crew, and he is a heavy hitter. This is, again, going very much out of narrative a little. One of those things I like to emphasize sometimes. It really is effective to suddenly say to players, okay, out of character for a moment, this is a genuine warning. This is a difficulty setting. When Simon Akimbi, an 8 hands as powerful, as influential as him, leans forward and says, don't fuck with Pierre Sterry unless you know in advance you're going to be coming out on top. That is me saying, if you take Pierre Sterry head on for any reason, that is entering hard mode. Now, I will express this to the players pretty much in those words because it's almost like gravitas at that point. The players listen and they think, "Oh, okay, this is a big deal." None of the other characters have had this kind of introduction, but Pierre Sterry is a big deal in Junction City. So Art, dutifully again, went to Eugenio Estevez's dance club, the Taj Mahal, and wins him multiple times after encountering him in the shower, and because Eugenio pointed a gun at him. Art basically ordered the rest of the gang to stay put. He was going to bring this crew together and start reading them the riot act, start straightening out the Estevez mob, and see whether he could bring some order to the place. We will get on to that again shortly. Liam O'Connell, meanwhile, our Hyde, one of our other primal characters, has received a visit from his mentor, Dr. Thorne, who is likewise a Hyde. This session was a very good opportunity for players' characters to get to meet other members of their accursed families. And Dr. Thorne came to visit because she wanted to know how his research was going in developing the means of controlling the wild shifts a little better. Maybe she's someone who is routinely running out of curse dice and succumbing to her damnation. She asked, though, because a newly accursed child has been dropped in her lap. She basically waited for O'Connell to leave the surgery after a very busy night disposing of this Battleforge, disposing of Tommy Earl, and he was finally leaving, and there she was, Dr. Thorne, waiting at his car to say, "I have a job for you. A small girl has been dropped in my lap. Name's Annie Lawrence. She's only 12, and she's a lichen. She is a werewolf, and she's already ripped her family to shreds. And now she needs assistance regulating her anger, and I cannot think of a better mentor and a better test subject, a lovely pairing, than little Annie and Dr. O'Connell." And so Dr. O'Connell drives to the Chapel of Good Hope at the outskirts of Junction City, where, sure enough, it is the scene of a massacre. This 12-year-old terrified girl who is rapidly shifting in and out of human to wolf to werewolf form, crackling with power. But more importantly, all around her, blood, guts, limbs, the signs of carnage where she has torn through her family and the priest they probably tried to deliver her to for some kind of exorcism. It didn't work. Needless to say, it did not work. She killed everyone she was close to. Now, this was a very close-run thing. Our player or rather, Dr. O'Connell and Annie Lawrence could very well have had some kind of knockdown, drag-out, scratching, biting, pummeling fight. But O'Connell, as a character, has been built quite socially for a primal, and so all credit to the player here. He subdued Annie after one round of combat and basically comforting her, telling her it would be all right. Yes, they charged each other because Annie Lawrence wasn't to be controlled. She charged the Hyde, smashed her, and then, "It's okay, it's okay. You need to calm down. You need to calm down." And he took her back to his clinic. Now, while all this was going on, Conrad, yes, that's right, we also have Conrad, our battleground angel. He headed back to his prepper house and had a small talk with his neighbour, Moses. He then went to see his handler, Mac. It's AM Imperial on the 4th floor, which is a front building. He needs to scan in to access it. He's not really sure what AM Imperial is, what kind of business it is, what they do there, but this office building in Junction City is where several of the battleground angels he works with come together. They pass through the administrative offices, the cubicles, and so forth, and past all the frosted windows in order to get with his handler, Mac, in what essentially amounts to a kind of Faraday cage, but albeit in a chamber, an all-white chamber with rounded edges and illuminated with just soft light, preventing any kind of liminality from occurring, is what Mac says. If we have no corners, if we have no edges, if we have no right angles, it makes it far less likely that the outside will enter this part of the world, and no one will be able to listen to what we're saying. Conrad has a theory that Mac might be slightly paranoid here, but in the world of Curseborne, paranoia might just be good sense. Anyway, Mac explained that he's been receiving reports and is extremely troubled by the account of a battle forged emerging into the populated area where the crew encountered it. Not only that, other battle forged have been witnessed around Junction City as well. And while other accursed have been dealing with them here and there, no one has put the information together yet except for the battleground angels. There are many accounts like this. There is something taking place in Junction City, or some things, that are weakening the fabric between this reality and others. Liminalities will become easier to stumble into, and their inhabitants will find it far easier to slip into this world if this keeps happening. And there's no guarantee this is related to Pierre Sterry, but Con should know, Mac imparts, that if he's responsible for this, if Pierre Sterry is responsible for this, he should be put on notice to leave the city or be disintegrated by the battleground angels. Damn the consequences. So now, despite the previous warning, Pierre Sterry is a heavy hitter, Mac of our battleground angels is saying, I don't care how dangerous he is. If he is doing this to our city, if you can find evidence that it is his actions doing this, then he needs to be warned. He needs to be driven off, or he needs to be destroyed. Conrad collects some sundry payments from the payroll department of AM Imperial, whatever the hell that is, and leaves. Meanwhile, Art, back at the Taj Mahal, is busy straightening out the gang that he has just inherited. Not that he intends to lead it, but he is trying to bring some rules and regulations to, if you can, to a criminal outfit. Mario, one of the Latinos in the Estevez gang, threatened him, basically said, I don't know who you are, I don't know why I should be scared of you, why should I follow you? Well, this was a good excuse for Art to fulfill one of his aspirations, which was to shift into his wild form and rip someone apart. So he dismembered Mario right there. This, as you might imagine, shook up the rest of the gang. Jules was terrified. Eugenio practically wet himself. Kelso was struck dumb. There was the very real risk of them fleeing, but Art basically intimidated them successfully and told them to hold their asses right there. He wasn't done with them. Just because Mario is out of the picture now, there's another 3 lieutenants, or there's a captain and 2 lieutenants left in this crew, and they need to be doing what he says. Well, Art isn't a dumb bag of spanners. Quite the contrary. He decided he would straighten them out through paperwork. Jules Abril is the accountant for this crew, and he was working the books when Art arrived. Art wanted to see these books and immediately determined that someone was siphoning cash off the top from the Estevez gang. And Eugenio said, yeah, I know Jules is taking money from us, but my mama always said, you know, if you're working with criminals, expect them to steal from you. That's fine. Art reminded him, you're supposed to be leading this gang now that your mother's in prison. You can't just let people steal from you. You need to teach them a lesson. You need to show the rest of your crew right now that you take this seriously. So shoot your friend. Shoot Jules. Right here, right now. Shoot him. Eugenio grew up with Jules, as became apparent through a bit of storytelling, and Jules was pleading, saying, I needed that money for my mom. She's been in hospital. She's got MS. She needs assistance. I needed the money. It's not like I'm insured or anything. Please, I'll work it back for you. I'll work it back. Eugenio does not have the spine. He doesn't have the balls, doesn't have the gumption. He is not a natural-born captain of a criminal outfit. And so his hand was shaking on the gun, which gave Jules the opportunity to take the initiative and shoot Eugenio, pledging he and Kelso, the remaining lieutenant, to El Aranya. So Art was content with that. We now have someone in control of this gang in the form of Jules Abril, who shows initiative, is prepared to steal, but most importantly has pledged to El Aranya, Simon Akimi. Not that he would know El Aranya by that name. Now it seems like this gang might actually finally be brought into order. The crew, now together, decided, as well as receiving several sets of coordinates from Mac where liminalities have been torn open, Battleforge have been spotted, they decided they would look at the closest one, which was at the Autumn Valley Care Home for the elderly, where a 6-year-old girl was run down and killed by a driver travelling at 80 miles per hour. There were still flowers and photos commemorating her death a week ago and police tape fluttering in the breeze. Conrad spots the liminal tear, being an outcast and bleeding a cursed eye in order to do so. Removes a bunch of flowers to access it. That is the code. You take flowers from the funeral site or the memorial site and you can pass through the rip. Finding a nightmare man who feeds on children's sorrow and suffering on the other side. In exchange for Con promising to deliver flowers to keep the misery going, the Nightmare Man explains to him that the killer had an heirloom, a valuable piece of outsider treasure in his car, and that the killer had tentacles when he was driving it at high speed. This is all leading back to Pierre Sterry, it seems. He's a spawn of Vodnik. They sometimes do possess tentacles, and this could be the link they need. It seems Pierre Sterry, driving like a maniac in a residential area with an heirloom, one of these magical items, mows down a child who was playing outside the care home while her parents were visiting grandma. Doesn't stop. This rips open a hole. Maybe Pierre Sterry is doing all this shit lazily, haphazardly, intentionally, we don't know yet, but tentacles could be a spawn of Vodnik, could be. They leave via the steps they used to enter and head to, well, now they pick up an old investigation lead. They recalled that the apartment where they found Tommy Earl was owned by Max Keene. Max Keene is a guy they encountered at the bathhouse, the steam house, way back near the beginning of the story, and they wanted to find out what was going on with Max Keene, because he was there, but it's highly likely he saw Tommy Earl in his heart-extracted state. So why wasn't he still around? Where was he hiding? They had tracked him down to his mother's apartment, which she shared with her daughter, Max Keene's younger sister. And while planning what they would do about Max and what he knows, Conrad suggested that they pin the blame for all this Tommy Earl stuff, on Martin Coyle. He's a big-time mortal gangster. But it won't start an accursed war if Tommy Earl's death is put on Martin Coyle's plate. Tommy Earl is already known to have crossed Martin Coyle, having stolen drugs or cut them with baby powder and other such, and rat poison, the type. The crew seem quite keen on this idea if it gets them out of going to war with other accursed. Arturo, while this is being considered, decided to climb into the flat from outside, failed doing so, but did break in subtly via another means, dragging Max Keene out, only to discover that he is undead. They didn't know about this. They didn't know that Max Keene was one of the accursed, but now that they have him, they do. And this is where Virgin Territories recap, this time episodes 5 and 6, will conclude. I will do another video once we've done an episode 7 and 8. Maybe if 7 is particularly full of activity, I'll do it as a single, but that is where this video ends. If you enjoy these recaps, and if you want to play Curseborne, please do pre-order it. You can find it on BackerKit. The link is below. And if you want to play in my games, the games I run for my Patreons, just head on over to patreon.com/Matthew Dawkins. I am always happy to receive more support and run more games. Thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic weekend.